Welcome, Virgo. This is Regina from Pacific Tarot, getting ready to do your reading for under the energy of this blue full moon in Sagittarius. So the blue full moon has occurred by the time you're receiving this message. However, the influence of that is still being strongly felt. And any loud noises you hear are my upstairs neighbor, who is not yet a year and a half, or almost two, actually. So he is quite the bam bam. So let's get started with your present energy, Virgo. The Eight of Cups is describing this desire, this yin, this pull, this gathering of energy that you have been accumulating towards something significant, something that defines you, something that is important in terms of your sense of purpose and mission, your sense of why you are here and what your contribution constitutes. So this is about really accepting the love, the relationship support that you've received, and recognizing that you've learned as much as you can from those, that they're no longer fulfilling you in the way that you know is necessary for you to find your fulfillment, your ultimate satisfaction. This is not really about leaving things, separating from things. It's about moving on to something that has more meaning for you. And that is a very strong energy that represents the accumulation of emotional support and reciprocity over many, many years, if not decades, for many of you. This is likely the result of all your relationships that are personal as well as professional, familial, community. In the past, the Four of Swords is describing a journey that you have been on, a retreat, or pulling in an evaluation, a sort of deep looking at the nature of suffering, painful disappointments, failures that you've experienced, and understanding ultimately that from those challenges, a lot of strength was gained, a lot of lessons were learned, and that for those lessons, it has become increasingly clear over the time that you have given yourself to deeply reflect on your responsibility in these events in your life, that you are in fact aware that you would not be where you are, or you would not have the qualities, the characteristics, the stamina required to move forward without these very necessary lessons. And in that way, there comes to be a sense of appreciation, gratitude that these lessons existed for you. And that is bringing you to the place that you're in now. Honoring those relationships, many you have held on to, worked through, made amends, forgiven yourself or others for their part. And now you're moving on to a place of a greater meaning and significance to where you are now. And in the future, the Ace of Cups is a beautiful omen of renewed sense of self-affirmation, a renewed sense of confidence, of feeling, of attunement to your own needs and desires. And this is likely a kind of resilience or bounce back from what may have been many relationships that were dependent upon your provision of care, so that you often stepped in to give the love, give the care, give the support in ways that have not always been reciprocated or reciprocated in kind. And this has left you, in many cases, feeling alone, very much on your own, and very increasingly determined to pursue this solitary reflection that has led you to a place of understanding that others can't provide you what they don't have. And instead, you are moving on to that place where your internal source of self-regard, self-respect, opens you up to your own resourcefulness. In other words, you have what you need to open up your heart to greater passion, devotion, a greater desire that is more encompassing. This can look like anything from a responsible public position in which you are literally responsible for other people's care. This can be embedded in the work that you do so that you're understanding the greater significance of the work that you've been devoting yourself to for years. It also means that for those of you that have done that kind of social, responsible engagement and participation, you are now turning your energy to providing for yourself the care, the response, the nurturing that you desire. And that can include a more intimate relationship if one has been lacking from your emotional landscape in general. For the Oracle card, I have pulled the card Regret. I know that I cannot change the past, and this is, despite its overly familiarity for many of you, it shows me that you're actually surrendering to experiences of sadness, pain, or rejection in many cases, and that kind of rejection that can be embedded in larger social relationships or in intimate ones. You have understood that you may have extended yourself as a way of compensating towards those you have not determined to be appropriate for your more intimate connection, but in response, you may have given more. You may have taken care of. You may have felt responsible as a replacement for what was really being sought in a relationship: more intimate love, more intimate communication, the need for greater personal attention. And that is the same for you as well. You may have stayed in relationships where you knew you weren't respected for your needs, your desires, and yet you may have stayed in those relationships because of the fear of moving on to nothing or something the same. And this is really about your own limited capacity, I think, in many cases here. You understood at some point in the past that you were not willing to be vulnerable in the way that you quite possibly were in your youth. And so this is part of what you're exercising in some way, this ability to be open, to be vulnerable, or even to expose yourself appropriately in your desire to give more. If this is resonating for you, Virgo, please like this video or share this with others. Subscribe to my channel, Pacific Tarot. I deeply appreciate all of you who do that. I am going to clarify the Four of Swords in the past. My hands have been suffering with the little bit of illness that I am weathering and recovering from. So 2 cards, please, for the Four of Swords for Virgo. And we have the 10 of Wands and the Hermit card. Wow, this really is quite descriptive of a scenario in which you honestly work better on your own. You really appreciate and may require really separate space in order to think, to hear yourself uh, formulate your ideas, to make presentations, to write. All of these things are part of the work that you do. This card is quite often associated with the sign of Virgo, so I think that's really interesting as well. The idea that you need to be left alone with your thoughts, your books, your research, your opportunity to explore your ideas in your own time, in your own way, without distraction. And this also tells me that there are many responsibilities that we spoke about earlier that you have carried along with you through this practice. This can be a part of your professional practice to require that alone time, but that you have continued to be a provider to those who were not necessarily in a reciprocal relationship with you. I'm not talking about a relationship with clients or customers or audiences, students, patients. I'm talking about more personal relationships with intimates, in which I'm picking up that in the place of real devotion, real tenderness, you have often uh, submitted your ability to provide for the needs of others as good as. I can maybe not love you, but I can take care of you. I can perhaps be a good co-parent. I can um, be a good friend, but I am not able or willing to give you what it is that you are asking for or looking for or requiring from me. And as a result of that, I think you carried that sense of responsibility for those who were not able to um, connect with you in the way that they desired. And so there is a sense that you have that has drained you, that has exhausted you, that has sucked up an immense amount of physical resources. And that is precisely why you not only like to, as a part of your professional or personal habit, work in silence, aloneness, stillness, quiet, without distraction of others, without the distraction of others' needs, but also what you understood you had to reevaluate. You had to get underneath this habit of taking care of as a compensation for being unwilling or unlikely to give the love that was required. And that has not only exhausted you, as I have stated, but it has built up resentment from others who understood that they were being supported, cared for, maintained, not as an act of love or a gesture of caretaking for sure, but not as an act of love. And so in your present situation, we're going to clarify the Eight of Cups with a couple of cards. And I'm pulling the Knight of Wands and the Knight of Swords. Interesting. So these are two energies that are combined in your current effort to step away from patterns, relationship styles, and individuals that you have connected yourself with the best of intentions. But you are understanding that you need greater inspiration, and that greater inspiration, that greater energy that you are pursuing is tied up with the way that you are understanding your role in general, in the culture, in the society, in your professional status, in your home or family. So these two qualities are really quite beautiful, and they really do support tendencies of yours. You are devoted. You are inspired. You're highly creative, although others don't often associate your detail orientation with creativity. You certainly have the penchant for perfectionism that is often associated with the creative impulse, right? Matching your vision with your work, your effort. But you are a communicator. You are a writer. For many of you, you are a leader in many cases. If not a figurehead, you are one who effectively leads those that you interact with on a regular basis. So this is obviously the case for, say, a teacher. But these energies are what are assisting you to break some kind of pattern that you are recognizing is really holding you back from your happiness. And the Ace of Cups in the future can even indicate the one, whatever that means to you. I'm not advocating soulmates, soulmateism, or that kind of significant othering. I am saying that desiring a more comprehensive emotional companionship, bond, even a deep love and connection that reflects your interest, your love, your desire, your need to serve others is something you're moving towards, clarified by the 10 is that the 9 of Swords and the King of Cups. Lovely. So yeah, this Ace of Cups is what's necessary for you to break this pattern of suffering, of loneliness, of painfulness, of meeting the same kinds of patterns in your relationships wherever they exist. This, for many of you, is about breaking a kind of conditioning that you received as a child in which there was a lot of pain, violence, suffering, illness, despair, a great need that you were expected to remedy in some way, even as a child. And it doesn't always look like physical abuse in any way, and it rarely does. In fact, for most of us, this is really about a kind of neglect of some critical aspects of who we are. Where the King of Cups is really indicating this greater maturity that you are moving towards in your emotional life. This idea that you have had many experiences around intimacy, around your understanding your emotional needs, recognizing the strength of your vulnerability, how that has and does serve you in your work, in your service, and that as a result of that, you have come to understand that these experiences, the experiences of suffering, of heartbreak, of failure, of incomplete connections, of the lack of resolution you may feel in many of your relationships is part of your strength. And you're actually coming to cop to the fact that you are a lover and that your hesitance and reticence in love is more a factor of your unsatisfying results, right? Once burned, twice shy. So you are aware that you have carried a pattern that you are only now able and strong enough, you feel brave enough to see, to acknowledge, to feel into, and to recognize that you have the tools, you have the strength of your own self-regard to begin to accept that as what gives you some super facility in the work that you do, in the relationships that you have, as a guide, a counselor that is quite likely an aspect of your professional life that is becoming more and more a feature of your accomplishment, your achievement, your ability to mentor others, to be a guide to your coworkers, your colleagues, and collaborators. It's interesting that you find yourself now coming to this emotional tone in your relationships, even in your professional work, that is being unearthed, that is emerging from the vast amount of work that you have done. Something you were questing, a connection you were looking to make. I have pulled previously as the outcome card, the Magician. And this is obviously one of your cards. Well, not obvious, I'm sure. This card, the Magician, is often associated with the planet Mercury, your ruling planet. Not to forget that Gemini is also ruled by Mercury, and there is a significant presence in in Gemini. The sun is in Gemini right now. That is what defines the full moon in Sagittarius, the energy we're resonating under now. And also Uranus has moved into Gemini and is temporarily retrograde, I believe. So this gives it more force and power. This is all in the realm of ideas. This is the realm that you live and work in. So the idea that you are, it feels like you're authoring a new way of defining the tone of your work, the import of some significant professional effort you've made, perhaps as a writer, an author, a teacher, one who presents ideas to others, one who is often in the position of leading discussions or conversations. You are creating something through that discourse, something that is unique to your work, your point of view, and something that more fully expresses what you feel your mission is. This feels, as so often is the case with the Magician, as though you are reclaiming some kind of ancestral or cultural legacy, and that is what informs the outcome here. And so I'm going to clarify the Magician here with the Egyptian cards. And 3 cards, please, for this. Have the 6 of Swords, the 8 of Cups. That's a repeat card. One more, please. The Page of Wands. Interesting. Okay, so it's feeling to me like you're moving again. It's what is emphasized is that you're leaving behind the kind of basic foundation of your body of knowledge. You're moving beyond that. You're not separating yourself. Obviously, you built your work on some kind of knowledge system and knowledge base, but you're moving away from that as you see that that has produced and is producing a sense of displacement, invisibility, disconnection. So there is something in the work, the body of knowledge you're perceiving that is not connecting the dots for you. And this is part of what you are now opening yourself up to, this greater emotional tone that has everything to do with the Ace of Cups, the King of Cups, this going from A to Z in terms of emotional compatibility, welfare, identification, feeling the emotions, understanding how feelings are embodied, looking at how that has transformed within your own life, the idea that we don't run away or close off our feelings even if we want to, that they have a life and they're cumulative. And somehow this is connecting up with the work that you are doing, the work that you are creating. This idea that we explore this new vein that speaks more clearly about healing, about restitution, restoration, repair. I'm going to finish up this reading, Virgo, with a language of flowers. And I pulled the heliconia, and the key word is realization. The answer is here. Take heed. I love this because I do feel very clearly from this energy that the idea of opening up and speaking to an aspect of yourself that may have in more recent time begun to bleed out into your work, into your relationships, into your community. You may have found yourself more hyper emotional, hyper vigilant about the feelings of others, and that can include protecting yourself from the feelings of others. Whatever context that is in, this is about some kind of systemic or institutional change that you're looking to make. So this is indeed profound in what many could call the end of empire. So I wish you well, Virgo. I hope this has been helpful. And until next time, namaste.